Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year! I can't believe it's a new year already. 2018 went by very fast. So I guess it's time for another update of DisneyChris.com and the Disneyland Magical Audio Tour. So I have a lot to talk about, most of which is concerning the Christmas time chapter, which I got a lot of work done on before Christmas, and it's nearly completed, but I didn't quite make it. So I'm leaving a few things for next year, and I will discuss that in a few minutes. But first of all, I need to give an update to the podcast, including both the regular Jiminy Crickets audio show and our YouTube show. And we sort of had some issues with our Christmas show, which we did live on December 12th. So Ruthie and I sort of had a long chat and decided to make some major changes because of some of the issues that we've been having with the live show. It's still very new to us. We're still sort of going through some growing pains, and we feel like these changes will really improve the show, and they're important for us to make. First of all, our regular audio podcast is not going anywhere. We're going to continue to do our traditional show, which we haven't had a release in quite some time, but because we have our YouTube show now, we're going to limit the regular audio podcast to one time per month. So we will have a new podcast in January, in a few weeks, and we will have a brand new audio podcast every month throughout 2019. We will also 3 times have a bonus episode of the audio podcast, which will be a special music episode. People are always really into our music episodes. So in addition to the regular monthly show, we're also going to, throughout the year, do 3 additional shows, which will be music only. Those will be coming out in February, July, and September. We've already got those all planned out. In fact, we have our whole recording schedule planned out for 2019. So the next big change is that our YouTube show is no longer going to be live. We've been having some issues with the stream dropping out, and we had a major issue the last show where the last 15 minutes of the show was completely lost. And so we just sort of cut off before we were finished with the show. And it's really doesn't make much sense to do the show live because we can actually record it in advance and then post it after we've recorded it. That will prevent any streaming issues from happening in the future. So the only thing that's going to change is we won't have live chat, but we haven't had that many people join us live and join us in the chat. The most we've had is about 7 or 8 people, and they really only 1 or 2 have ever participated in the chat. So most of the people who watch the show watch it after it's been shown live. So there really is no point to doing it live because the lion's share of people will just go and watch it after the fact. We haven't really garnered a live audience. So to prevent the stream from dropping out, in case we make any mistakes, I can make some quick edits if need be. I'm going to try to do it as if it's live and not edit it unless it's absolutely we make a huge mistake or something. But we're still going to release the show every other week as we were doing in 2018. The only difference as far as the releasing is it's going to be a pre-recorded show. We're still going to release it at a set time. We'll release it on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern time, but it will be pre-recorded. In fact, let me take that back. We're going to release the show on Thursdays now, because Ruthie and I will record it on Wednesday, and then I will release the show Thursday evening, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and you can watch it anytime you like after that. So our next show will be on the 9th of January. Now, the next big change is we're going to change our format of the show quite a bit, because the shows have been way too long. We've been going way over 2 hours, and originally we wanted it to be like a 90-minute show. So we're no longer going to include the Down the Rabbit Hole segments because, well, first of all, the Down the Rabbit Hole was never meant to be what it ended up becoming. It was meant to be an impromptu discussion of just like I throw out a topic and then we let it take us to wherever we want it to take us. And it ended up becoming just like another version of our recorded show, only with visuals. So we decided it's kind of pointless to do that when it's the exact same thing that we do for our audio show. So that type of stuff, the content that we were including in our Down the Rabbit Hole segment, will be incorporated into our recorded audio show. We're no longer going to do it as a part of the YouTube podcast. So the show is primarily going to be focused on current events and Disney news stories. And then for other historical content or things like that, you would want to listen to our audio podcast. And I do also post our audio podcast on the YouTube channel. So if that's where you go to get our content, you'll still be able to find it there. So we're also not going to be doing the cartoon commentaries anymore because we've been getting copyright struck by posting those and like saying that we can't show the whole podcast because of a 7-minute cartoon. And it's really upsetting because I checked these. First of all, the last one we did was the Christmas one, and we did the Christmas Silly Symphony Santa's Workshop. I checked YouTube and I posted it on my private channel to see if it would be okay. It wasn't struck down, so then I figured it would be okay to post it on the podcast. So I did, and then after it was on the podcast, it got copywritten. And not only that, it wasn't just demonetized, it wasn't allowed to be shown unless I would have to have cut out that cartoon in order for my entire podcast to be shown. Because of that one cartoon, the whole thing was you couldn't watch the entire show. So the other frustrating thing about it is that same cartoon is on other people's channels. There's several people who have posted that exact same cartoon and they didn't get struck down. And they just showed it as is. Ruthie and I did a commentary. We talked over it and we also showed it in a letterbox. So it was a transformative work. So legally, it's covered by fair use laws. But YouTube just lets people claim willy-nilly anything for copyright. And they ask questions later, and then they let the person who laid the claim decide whether or not they want to release it. So it's not a democratic, and it's not, it's a system that is broken, basically. And anybody can just claim stuff, and it's being abused, and I just don't want to deal with any of that anymore. So we're not going to show cartoons on the YouTube podcast anymore. Which brings me, well, one other thing before I move on. We're still going to do our opening segments. So in addition to the news, we'll do like our, like our book reviews and top 10 lists and all that type of stuff at the opening of the show. So that will still be included in the podcast on YouTube. However, there's a couple things that we've decided to no longer feature on the podcast, including the cartoons. So the other thing we're not going to do on the podcast is the D-Show trivia game. We did that once with our guest Jerry. We decided that what we would do for that is we would actually choose contestants from our roster of Patreon subscribers. So we would pre-record a trivia game with them, and then we would, we'd contact them, see if they want to participate, and then we'd all get together and record just a trivia game as a separate thing, not part of the podcast. Just the trivia game as a standalone video. And then we'll show it on Patreon for a couple weeks, so only Patreon people will be able to see it for a few weeks. Then after that, we'll post it on the regular YouTube channel as a special bonus feature that's not part of the regular podcast. So from time to time, maybe every other month, we'll do one of those D-Show segments. So that's no longer going to be part of just because it's a time thing and we want to keep the show down to 90 minutes, etc. Also, Ruthie and I thought we might do some cartoon commentaries, and because we can't post them on YouTube, we can make them exclusive content just for our Patreon subscribers. So from time to time, we might do a little cartoon commentary and then show it on our Patreon. Give everyone who has a Patreon account a special link so they can watch it. So that solves that copyright problem, because now it's not going to be on YouTube. And it also gives incentive for people to participate as a Patreon subscriber, because all you have to do is donate $1 or more a month. As low as $1, you'll get all that content. Plus, I also give a lot of special other content, like special audio collections and stuff. So it's $1 well spent, because you'll be getting lots of special content going forward. And it helps us out a lot. Every little bit helps. So please consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. It's DisneyChris.com is where you'll find us on Patreon. Now, let's talk about the Disneyland Magical Audio Tour. That's probably why you're here. So, like I said, I did a lot of work on the Christmas time chapter. So I know Christmas is over and everybody's probably tired of hearing about Christmas, so I'm just going to briefly go through what I added in case you're interested, and you can always go and listen to it next Christmas season a year from now. But I'm scrolling down because all these things at the top were already completed when I did my last update. So the first thing I've added are these 3 tracks here. The Charles Dickens Christmas Carolers, which is just an extended version of what was already there, and I also cleaned up the audio a little bit. Same with the Dickens Yuletide Band, cleaned up the audio, made it a little bit longer. Same with the Holiday Brass. The Dapper Dans is a brand new mix. It's all new music. I got rid of the old version because I didn't like it, and I replaced all the music with new singing. It's much nicer. The audio quality on the old stuff, I had a lot of difficulty finding barbershop music for Christmas that had good audio quality, but a friend of mine who is also a Patreon subscriber contacted me and made some suggestions, and together we came up with a really good mix of some music that really does sound a lot like the Dapper Dans. I also did a medley of songs for Coke Corner. This one was really challenging because the music that I used had a lot of audio issues that I had to clean up, so it was really tedious, but I did get it done. 'Tis the Season Handbell Carolers also added, and the Disneyland Hotel, I just cleaned up the audio a little bit. The Jingle Cruise, what I had before was sort of a truncated version. It wasn't the full mix. I completely redid it, and now it's the complete hour and 20-minute loop. I guess they don't do the Jingle Cruise anymore, but when they did do the Jingle Cruise, this was the loop. Maybe they'll bring it back in the future. Rivers of America and Blue Bayou were there before, but I added additional music and cleaned up the tracks a little bit again. Moving down, Frontierland area music. Again, I added additional music that I was missing before. I found more music and I cleaned it up. Same with the Big Thunder Ranch holiday area music. Jingle Jangle Jamboree is a tribute to Billy Hill and the Holiday Hillbillies. I don't have authentic music by them, but it's basically bluegrass music playing Christmas songs, so that's sort of my way to represent them. Bear Country holiday music, I had a shorter version with very bad audio. This is a much better version and nice, clean, crisp audio quality. So that was replaced. A lot of these are tracks that already existed, but I replaced them, I improved them. So Mickey's Night Before Christmas, I mentioned this in my last update. I have a friend who has the authentic 1970s Disneyland version of the show, but he didn't have time to get that audio to me before Christmas this year, which is fine because he's taking care of his mother who's had some health issues, and he's got things going on, so that I wasn't at all offended by any means, but he probably will get that to me for next year, so that's something to look forward to for next year. In the meantime, as a placeholder, I put the Walt Disney World version, which is slightly different. The Magic of Christmas was also on here before, but it was a shortened version, and it was missing a little bit of the dialogue, and I cleaned it up and made it nicer. Mickey's Nutcracker, also, the audio quality was not that great before. I cleaned it up quite a bit, added a little bit of additional dialogue that I had originally cut out because I was having issues cleaning it. I didn't have the same tools to use to clean it when I initially posted it on the site. Now I have better cleaning tools, for lack of a better phrase, so I used my new technology to make it better. The Sleeping Beauty Castle winter lighting ceremony, I quickly redid that because there was a really strange echo in the narration, and I got rid of that. And then the other big thing I did is I added 5 versions of the Candlelight Processional. And as you can see, there's 2 still missing. In fact, these are the only 2 tracks missing. I got everything done except for the Jack Wagner and Howard Keel versions of the Candlelight Processional. Everything else on the page is done. So there's only 2 tracks that I need to do for next year, plus the redo of Mickey's Night Before Christmas when my friend sends me the authentic version. So those are 3 things that still need to be done, but I'm going to wait until next year. I posted these 3 tracks, 99 through 101, on Christmas Day, and I figured after that I was sort of washed. I was a little tired of editing Christmas music. I'd been doing it for over a month, and I didn't really want to do any more after Christmas, and probably not very many people are going to be listening to much of this music after Christmas, so I decided just to wait till next year to finish. So I have moved back to the chapter 1, which I had started updating before the holidays came around, and I have a bunch of tracks to redo and to add to this site. To this chapter. I already set all up the spaces and all the new images for all the new additions that I plan to make to this chapter. And after Christmas, I started working on setting up several of the tracks that I'm going to be adding, and I made a to-do list, which I'm going to show you right now. So these are all the tracks that I'm going to be adding to the chapter, and everything that I highlighted in yellow I've already set up, so everything's ready to go for final editing. And for those who don't know, when I say final editing, it's when I go through all the completed edited track and listen for any sound issues, any errors, any background noise, any clicks, any skips, and make all those corrections. So sometimes when I go through, it'll go really fast, and sometimes there'll be so many mistakes, it'll take me an hour to do 1 minute of the track. So it just depends on how much needs to be corrected. So as you can see, there's 27 tracks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are redo. The rest are all new. And so far I have set up 12 of them, so I have 15 left to do the setting up for. This is sort of the project I have been working on right now. So I haven't added anything new since Christmas, because I'm gonna finish doing all the setting up of all these, and once everything is yellow then I will start doing the final editing and adding these. So probably by the end of the month, maybe even sooner, you'll start seeing some of these tracks get added to the site, because right now I'm sort of setting it all up, so there's going to be a little bit of a period where you won't see any new content, but that doesn't mean I'm not working. That just means I'm getting everything set up in advance, and then I'll go through and do all the final editing. That's sort of become my new process on how I do all that. So that is an update for today, January 1st, 2019, and I'd like to wish you all a very happy new year, and I hope all of your Disney dreams and all your other dreams come true in 2019. So I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.